Alright, welcome back. We're going to review Jason Bourne. This is a solo Beast Gang podcast. Jason Bourne is directed by Paul Greengrass. Paul Greengrass has directed previous entries in the Bourne series. They were Bourne Supremacy and Bourne Ultimatum. He's also directed United 93 and also one of my favorite movies, which was Captain Phillips. The writers are Christopher Rouse, who's done previous Bourne movies. He has also written The Italian Job, United 93, and Captain Phillips, so it seems like he's done a lot of Greengrass movies, and Paul Greengrass is also listed as a writer. It stars Matt Damon as Jason Bourne. Matt Damon has been in previous Bourne movies, Good Will Hunting, Saving Private Ryan, which is one of my favorites, the Ocean series, Oceans 11, Oceans 12, Oceans 13, and also The Departed, which was one of my favorite movies. Alicia Vikander plays Heather. She's been in Ex Machina, great movie. The Man from U.N.C.L.E., not a very good movie. And The Danish Girl. Tommy Lee Jones plays Robert Dewey, who is a CIA director. He's been in No Country for Old Men, great. The Fugitive and Men in Black. It stars Riz Ahmed. He plays Aaron Kalor. He's been in Nightcrawler. He was Rick, great movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. And lastly, Julia Stiles plays Nikki Parsons. She's been in Silver Linings Playbook, previous Bourne movies, and Dexter. The synopsis: CIA's most dangerous former operative is drawn out of hiding to uncover a more explosive truth about his past. Technically, this is the fourth Bourne movie and also the fifth Bourne movie. The fourth Bourne movie was Bourne Legacy, and it featured Jeremy Renner, and it did not have a lot to do with the Matt Damon Bourne series other than a couple of clips. So with the first Bourne movie, it was a lot about Jason Bourne being sent on a mission and him losing his memory. He regains bits and pieces of it. In the second movie, he learns a little bit more about his past, and in the third movie, he knows enough about his past to try to move on, but it's kind of drawn back in to another situation. With this movie, Jason Bourne is in hiding. He's no longer worried about his past. When Nikki, she was a CIA analyst in the previous movies, that's Julia Stiles' character, attempts to contact him. This movie starts to take cues from recent events. So these recent events are Snowden, WikiLeaks, foreign hackers. Nikki is working with the internet hacking group seeking to out people in the government. And the movie has a big focus on privacy. So in this hacking attempt, Nikki comes across information about Jason Bourne and Jason Bourne's past and his father, and attempts to contact him, which puts her on the grid for the hacking attempt. And also Jason Bourne is drawn out of hiding. Another thing is that Riz Ahmed's character is a Zuckerberg Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google. Zuckerberg's the CEO of Facebook, or founder of Facebook. He plays this character similar in their vein, and that he has a company that is like Google that Tommy Lee Jones, who is the CIA director, wants to exploit. Alicia Vikander is on Tommy Lee Jones's team. So Tommy Lee Jones works for the CIA. He's a CIA director. And that Alicia Vikander's character is a CIA analyst that is trying to help Bourne, but also thwart the efforts of Tommy Lee Jones. So here are some mainstays for the Bourne series. There's hand-to-hand combat, there's car chases. And also another thing is that there's people looking at screens. That is the first hour. The first hour is people standing around looking at screens, barking out orders about things that are happening far away that they don't have any control over. The second hour of the movie is very anticlimactic. So you have the mainstay car chase. You also have the hand-to-hand combat. Greengrass falls back on the shaky cam. When Bourne Supremacy came out in 2004, shaky cam was this amazing way to hide the fact that people couldn't fight. we have grown past that. People have backlash against shaky cam, but this is the return to shaky cam, which starts to make the movie a lot worse than what it needs to be. And Tommy Lee Jones phones in his performance. He doesn't need to do much. He's just I'm in charge. I'm just going to say this line. Like, I'm going to say this line and no one can do anything about it. It's shown that Tommy Lee Jones has a relationship with Jason Bourne's father. Jason Bourne's father was an ambassador, at least on the surface. And another thing is that Jason Bourne's reasoning and eventual outcome doesn't actually affect him as a main character. He learns some stuff about his past, but it doesn't change anything in the end. And a lot of the acting is completely subpar. Alicia Vikander, who I do like, she's not a very well fleshed out character. There's points where she seems like she's trying to help Jason Bourne and then try to hurt Tommy Lee Jones. There's times that she's trying to help Tommy Lee Jones, but it really doesn't make sense. The overall story, the way that the story is written, doesn't really amount to anything. The acting is bland. The action doesn't really offer very much. Doesn't do anything differently than any other movie. Any other character that is in the movie has the most basic of basic lines. Jason Bourne only has a handful of lines in the movie, so doesn't break any barriers with acting. A lot of the previous Bourne movies had pulled from the books. This one seems to be a solely created story, and it doesn't flow well. The situations that are presented in the movie are just action scene to people standing in the control room, to action scene, hey, we need to protect the asset, to action scene, to some unnecessarily explained plot to the end of the movie. And at some point they say, can you enhance that? Which is similar to CSI, and it's always a meme or a joke on the internet. As someone that has grown to appreciate Paul Greengrass' style, so Bourne Supremacy, the shaky cam ruined the movie for me. It ruined all the fights in the movie, but he learned. And when Bourne Ultimatum came out, he adjusted and made a lot of corrections and turned it into a good movie. Captain Phillips is a great movie. With Paul Greengrass and this story taking place over several years, it's really become tired. I said before that there's a need to create sequels where there's no need for a sequel, and this is just another entry in that it doesn't help push along the Bourne story at all, because all it is just more or less a cash grab. And I think that the box office has shown that the movie is not doing well. That's domestically and internationally, because I don't think that people really wanted to see this movie. I mean, this is just a point where I think after the Bourne Ultimatum, the story was completely done. And it closed the book on a lot of things, but they reopened the book and tried to shoehorn in Jason Bourne's father into this movie. And the only positive I have about his father is that there's a point where there's a flashback, and there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie, where Matt Damon is a young Matt Damon. So we're talking about the Bourne Identity young Matt Damon. And I'm like, hey, that CG looks good. That works for me. With everything else, that the story is just kind of a standard spy story. The acting in it is, on Matt Damon's part, is very minimal, and on the part of everyone else is standard dialogue. There isn't a standout performance in this. The eventual ending, again, doesn't really help the overall quintology, what you want to call it now. And I would hope that there is not another Bourne movie. As much as I like Bourne, I do revisit the Bourne Identity and the Bourne Ultimatum frequently, not so much the Bourne Supremacy. But I hope there isn't another Bourne movie. towards the end of the movie, there's a big car chase, and also Jason Bourne goes to a DEF CON Black Hat style conference that Riz Ahmed's character is speaking at. There's an item that Jason Bourne picks up as a freebie that is a listening device with a camera, and it plays a part towards the end of the movie, and it's completely absurd. It's the silliest idea ever. And again, since this movie focuses on privacy and things like that, it doesn't really help it any more than any other idea they could have came up with. I mean, this movie doesn't really need to be made. With my review, I'm going to give this a 4. It's worse than any other Bourne movie, and that includes Bourne Legacy, which was somewhere between wanting it to be okay and kind of a hot mess. That's going to be a Beast Game Podcast. Can you enhance that?